Hey guys, this is Dave with Senior Softball Bat Reviews, and this is something different that I wanted to start doing, and I'm going to call it Senior Softball Raw. And the reason I want to call it Raw because I kind of get into some topics, talking about things that I've experienced through the last 30 plus years that I've been playing ball, and wanted to talk about the good and the bad, and kind of educate a little bit of people about bats. And a lot of you guys don't know where I came from. Um, and how I got started doing this. I know a lot of you guys, if you're watching this, you've seen some of my videos. And I've got over 800 videos out there on YouTube. And I kind of want to talk to you guys about where I got my knowledge from and where I got started doing all this. And it's actually funny if you come back and think about it, and on how I got started doing all this, and by accident, guys. It's funny how the path takes us on where we're going to go, and I wanted to let everybody know, how I got to know about bats, how I got to know about nutrition, how I got to know about injuries, what to do when you get injured. I think that's something that I need to let everybody know, because a lot of you guys hear me and you have no background. You have no background on what I did or what I've done. So what I want to do is do podcasts, kind of talk about, answer a lot of questions in these podcasts, guys. I've already got, when I first started doing this, I already got a few questions from you guys, but I have got questions. I bet I can do a podcast once every 2 weeks for 2 years, and I could answer questions without even taking any questions from you guys, because and because I've been doing this for 5 years right now about bats, I get a lot of questions from you guys. And to the best of my knowledge, this is, I'm not a freaking genius. I mean, this is my opinion. I wanted to do this because to let you guys know, it's totally my opinion about anything that I talk about on here. I'm not out to try to make any money doing this. I do not make any money doing this. As a matter of fact, I wanted to talk about, I'm kind of like I'm not faithful to any bat company. I will swing the hottest bat out there. It doesn't matter. I swing a Dudley now. It doesn't matter what it is. What I'm saying, if it's a Mikan Dudley, TPS comes out with a new bat that's hot, I will drop my Dudley and I will start swinging a TPS. Okay, I'm not obligated. I'm not. I don't make any money doing this. Nobody sends me money to talk about my reviews. I buy every bat that I get, or I'll have a lot. People will actually send me bats to do reviews on, but the majority of my stuff that I actually buy it. I pay money for it. I actually buy more than one bat, guys, because I'll talk about it a little bit later in my podcast. But I actually buy more than one bat, either 2 to 3 bats I'll usually get to do a really good review on it. But I wanted to talk to you guys about where I came from. And it's a funny story. I didn't know anything about softball. I was 21 years old, and I'm a big football guy. 21, we had a bunch of guys from high school that I graduated with, and plus a lot of the high schools around the south side of San Antonio would meet up at a place called Southside Lions. It's Gonzaga now. And we would turn on the lights every Tuesday, and we would get out there and play tackle football, just beat each other up. Well, I'd been doing this for a couple of years. Started at 19, late 19, and then at 21, we were walking off the field, turned off the lights, and there's right next to the football field, there's actually a couple of softball fields. So I walked over there, because I had time. I walked over there, and I recognized a few of the guys that were actually practicing. And I got in the stands, kind of relaxing, just watching them practice. Well, one of the guys comes over and asks me if I wouldn't mind, just practicing with them and just taking shagging balls or whatever. So I went out there and shagged a little bit, and then I got up there and started hitting. And guys, I sucked. I mean, I sucked bad. And everybody laughed about it because I was this big guy, and I just couldn't hit. I don't think I hit a ball to the infield. Well, they asked me if I wanted to, to pitch, because they didn't have a pitcher. So I went out there and I grabbed a ball. And I was a natural. I mean, I could pitch a strike after strike, and I wouldn't move the ball around, but I could pitch it right behind the plate. I bet I could, if you put a can there, I can hit it every time. Well, they got all like, wow, well, yeah, hey, you want to come and play with us? And I go, well, where do you guys play? And they go, we play at Little Billy's, which is on the east side of San Antonio. And I said, well, hell yeah, I'll come out and play. Well, they said, well, okay, first game's this Thursday, so it was in 2 days, and I didn't really care much about my hitting because it's all fun. I mean, it was kind of like maybe a beer league back then, and so I met up there, and the lights were on. There was a ton of people there. And I went out there, and right when I walked on the field, I fell in love with it. I thought it was awesome. The people being involved. We played the game. I pitched. And I got into it. The passion was there. I wanted to play. So I went out and started practicing with these guys. Well, there's a guy in San Antonio at the time that hit a lot of balls, and it was Bill Blake. Well, he would go out there and play too. And he found out that I can pitch strikes. So he walks up to me. This is funny, guys. He walks up to me. I didn't even know him. I had heard about him. And I walk up. He walks up to me and goes, you got a job? And I go, no. I said, I got a part-time job, but nothing really that I'm serious about. And he goes, you got a girlfriend? I said, you married? He goes, you married? And I go, no. You got any kids? And I go, no. And he goes, I have a job for you. And I go, well, what is it? Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning till around noon, I want you to pitch to me. And I was like, wow, because this is Bill Blake, and I was this little kid, not little kid, but I was this kid coming up. And I said, well, where are you going to hit? He goes, well, at the Southside Lions, basically the same place I was playing football at. Tackle football. It was a baseball field that was crossways with a football field. And I said, sure. And he goes, and the benefit is we're going to go eat pizza every day after we hit. And I was like, yeah, I get to pitch and I get to eat pizza, So he goes, I told him, I said, when are we going to start? And he goes, okay, Monday morning, be here at Southside Lions. So I show up Monday morning. And he's got his own balls, and I go out there, and I just threw strike, and he loved it because, he would hit, Billy back in the day, in 81, would hit 300, 400 balls every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And like clockwork, he would be there, and then right after, it was so funny because right after we'd got done eating, we'd go to Mr. Gaddy's Pizza and back off Dollarhide, and Mr. Gaddy's would have all-you-can-eat pizza, so we would kill that place when we'd walk in there. And there was a couple other guys that would go shag for us. When after Billy would hit, I got to get in there and do some hitting, and I know when I first started, Billy's probably shaking his head, going, "Oh my God," but he knew I could pitch, so I was in. And the other guys would get up there and pitch to me, and then we'd grab all of our stuff and we'd go eat. But one thing that Billy does, and what really got me and Billy getting along together back then too, is Billy fished, and I love fishing. So Billy had his own little boat, and we would go fishing the days that we were off, and it's kind of kick back. The deal about me is, I didn't need anything. I didn't have a girlfriend, didn't have a wife or kids or anything. I worked when I had to work, and I hit balls. And guys, back in the day, I mean, you talk about dedication with Billy. Billy would hit till his hands bled, and then he would tape them up, get bigger gloves, and he would still hit because that guy loved to hit. And what I did was Billy wasn't a big social guy back in that day, and a lot of guys in San Antonio will vouch for me on this one. He didn't like talking about the way he did things. Because Billy just got out there and just swung. I mean, he swung as hard as he can to hit a ball a long way, and Billy could. I mean, Billy could hit him a long way, back in the day. He can still hit him good now. But it was funny because I would pick his brain, and I make jokes about this. It's actually one of my bloopers, and I would try to pick his brain at the beginning, and he would get mad. Hey, you're just out here to pitch. Just pitch to me. You're just out here to pitch. And I would joke with him, about it nowadays because, matter of fact, we had today, we had lunch, and we were around a bunch of people, and I kind of joke about the way he treated people back in the day because he was an ass, and he didn't like to give up too much information when it came to hitting, as long as he got pitched to back in them days. But I want to, basically, and talk about, how I got started. Well, that was in 1981, guys, till 1990, 93, 92. So during this whole time, I was Billy's pitching buddy to come out and just throw pitches to him, and he would hit whenever he was playing with all those big teams back then. But the one thing that I got into, and this is funny, and nobody really knows this, but Billy is got an engineer's brain. He is a lot into physics. Billy is one of the guys back in the day that he did a lot of testing on bats. And guys, if I wouldn't believe it if I wasn't there with him when he was doing this. And his theory about the way a bat performs is totally back in 1981. And I heard him talking about he would do this before 81, but once they came out with a cap on a bat, Billy kind of went off. I mean, he started trying to test his theory the way he talked about loading bats, because if you remember back in those days, guys, they did not have anything close to being an end-loaded bat, or what they called an end-loaded bat. And if you remember, a lot of their plugs were a star plug that they would slide down inside that bat. So Billy was doing this back in the 80s, and I kind of was there with him whenever he was testing. He would get bats, he would dissect them to find out what's inside of them, tear them apart, swing with them, and just to find out that his theory that he thought about bats was true. And he would sit there, and he had bat companies would call him, and he would get in arguments with them about, no, you're full of shit, you need to load it this way, and they're like, no. And even the end cap, and I was talking to Billy about this the other day. Billy came about the way you do an end cap on a bat, and I'll kind of get into that when I get longer, a little bit more into these podcasts. Is Billy actually came up with the idea about an end cap, the way it should be flat and not rounded, and he was talking to Easton and Steels about this back in the day. But I want to get into all this. Billy did a lot of testing when I was with him. I was there with him when he was doing the testing. And I was kind of like the guy that got the little bones of scraps, right? Because Billy would go out and he'd do these testing. He would throw the bats to me, and I would test them, not to give him my opinion because I was the kid, but because when he would get, one thing about Billy, when he was done with something, he would throw it. He would gain that knowledge about a bat, and then he would throw it, and then he would either cut it up or he'd give it to me or one of his other buddies that would actually go out there and shag with us. And then I would do experiment. I would cut them open, or I would actually look at the end cap on how he loaded. And Billy would explain to me over and over again how he thought the way a bat swung, and how to get the trampoline effect on it. Basically just giving me his theory on what he thinks about how a bat should be loaded or how a bat should perform. And I kind of picked this up through the 10 plus years that I actually hit with Billy out there, and gained actually quite a bit of knowledge from him. I wanted to get that out there, I wanted to let you guys know where I came from. And what I want to do is talk about how I started doing this, or why I started doing this, and what I wanted to achieve. But that's in another video, guys. I wanted to make this video probably anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes long. I'm about there right now. I don't want to make them too long because I don't want you guys to be disengaged. So this is my first one. I'm going to have many coming within the next 6 months to a year. Like to talk about a lot of things. I'm going to answer a lot of questions to the best of my knowledge. And that's it. That's it of number one podcast. Thanks, guys.